Hello and welcome to CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is Season 6, Episode 255.
Queen Elizabeth died, moon domes, drone swarm destroyer, and ghost hunting 101.
Yeah. So here we are again. Welcome back to CreepGeeks Podcast. Got a little scary, terrifying NASA sound in my throat. That's the actual sound in space. Right?
Okay.
So many times you hear that you can't really have sound in space because there's nothing to sort of make the sound happen, right?
Travel.
Right. It has to, sound waves actually need to hit something to actually make the sound happen, right? So that was the theory, at least, or that's what they say. But evidently NASA has captured that super scary space sound, stuff of nightmares, and they kind of put it up as a tweet.
Huh.
So the article came from Vice, which is a very trustworthy news source, Vice. It says NASA has captured actual sound in space, and it's honestly terrifying. And I agree 1,000%.
At the beginning, it sounded like like pre-recorded ghost sounds.
It sounds like what you think Mel's Hole sounds like.
That's true. Yeah.
But it doesn't. Mel's Hole sounds worse, actually.
I know. Ooh, what if that's a theory? I bet it is.
What?
That Mel's Hole is like a black hole that exists on Earth.
No, it's a portal to hell. That's even scarier. It's not a black hole that exists on Earth.
I know, but what if the...
I know what you're saying.
Non-supernatural explanation. Yeah.
This is me calculating.
Okay.
Like, what if a black hole is existing in Mel's Hole? I'm pretty sure I don't know. No.
Okay.
I think we'd be torn apart. I don't think we'd be talking about it because it wouldn't exist because black hole sucks things in. Has huge gravitational forces.
Maybe you have too much.
Every space scary movie you've ever seen talks about black holes is ripping stuff apart.
Maybe it's just a dormant one. We don't know. Okay.
No.
Anyways, the sound is terrifying.
Yeah, so there's a misconception that there's no sound in space because it's a vacuum, right? And so there's no way for the sound waves to travel because it needs stuff to travel on. So a galaxy cluster that has so much gas that they've actually picked up actual sound. In other words, the sound of the black hole is being created by the waves, sound waves, hitting the gas and making a sound.
Yeah.
And so they picked up actual sound, so they amplified it, and they mixed it with other data to basically hear a black hole.
Okay.
And that's what it sounds like. Scary stuff. Which is funny, because if you heard that... all those souls.
Stop.
So anyway, if you're still listening to the podcast, we're glad to have you. And this is our episode 255. And we're going to talk about some stuff that we think would be interesting because we like to talk about paranormal weird news. And we're located
in the mountains of Western North Carolina.
Yes. And we broadcast from our underground location.
Yes.
In a bunker, if you will. Right. So some of the things that we found to be interesting this particular week is, as we put in there, we had to actually update it because, we'll talk about Queen Elizabeth and all that good stuff. But before we move into that, there's a couple different ways you can get a hold of us and contact us if you'd like to interact with us on a more one-on-one type level. You can go to Facebook and look up Creep Geeks. There's a phone number we can call, or you can call.
Yep, that phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Where you can leave us a message. We also have a website, creepgeeks.com, where there's a contact area up there.
Yep.
Instagram, all that sort of thing. So however you want to get a hold of us, you can certainly do it. And we have a little TikTok too. So it's kind of an easy way if you'd like to share some information and maybe chat a little bit and let us know what's up. So as we move back into the podcast, there's a little bit of a rant. You looking at me? I'm looking at you.
I was looking at you.
Okay. So the rant is this. And speaking of like social media stuff, it happens all the time, but it seems like it happens more often on Instagram, where somebody will shoot us a message, like a DM, which is basically direct message, right, for you older folks out there. Well, somebody will want to chat with us. And, we're always interested, and people do chat with us. They kind of send us messages and stuff, but most of the time, it's some bro dude who's all about, hey, man, let me show you how you can make $17 off crypto. Right? And there's a difference between cryptid and crypto.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency versus cryptozoology. And it bugs me. And I don't know if it's Instagram that does it or if it's them just not caring and typing out CRY and then hitting that sounds great, send it to a kabillion people.
I think it's an even level of both, because I've noticed if we put something out there about cryptids, even if it's cute, even if it's a joke, even if it's just pepper, all of a sudden our inbox is just full of, hey, buy my crypto, or I can show you how to buy crypto.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, I just want to talk about Bigfoot, you know?
Give me something related to what we're trying to talk about. I mean, I know the first 3 letters, 4 letters.
4.
Are pretty close,
Actually,
but come
1,
on,
2,
man.
3, 5, crypt.
All right. It's like, give me a break, man. Stop it. Hey, man. And it's always the same kind of picture.
Yeah.
Got the desk, the glass desk, big cigar, sunglasses, bald head or whatever, going, hey, man.
And to be equal opportunity now, I am starting to see some women doing cryptocurrency too.
At the glass desk with the cigar and the sunglasses?
Glass desk, highlights, the really smart glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the ones that you can get off Zenny Optical, not sponsored.
Yeah. So instead of the cigar, it'll be a really smart pair of glasses.
Maybe a pen.
Yeah, a pen. Yeah. So, with a Bic for her pens.
No, man, it's got to be exclusive, like a Cross pen or a Parker pen or something like that.
But it's just every single
Parker's
time.
not that exclusive, but they make pens that look expensive, like Cross or Mont Blanc or something.
If we do a cryptid heavy post on like Instagram or one of the other platforms, it's like we go through a week of those, of the cryptocurrency posts.
We should start our own cryptocurrency, cryptid crypto. But at the end of it, you got to prove that you sent money to us.
Actually, don't say that, because I think somebody was doing that.
Oh, they're trying.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, man, they're trying to eliminate paper money anyway. Just how it is.
Oh, man, that's a trending search.
Well, it's okay. So it's a natural progression if you really look at it. I'm not saying it's right or anything, but it is a natural progression.
Yeah.
Every sci-fi show, every sci-fi movie, every sci-fi everything has basically, they don't carry around wads of money.
Yeah.
It's either something tangible like gold. Yeah. Or some other precious metal that's useful in one way or the other, or they get credits.
Yeah.
Or qubits, if you're Battlestar Galactica, version 2.0, kind of a, whatever.
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about Battlestar Galactica, both the original version and the second version, right, was that when you looked at, like, when they handed each other papers or whatever, the corners were cut off. You never noticed that?
Yeah,
it has almost like a slight octagon kind of shape because they knocked the corners off. And so whoever thought of that in the prop department for the series that came out in like 81 or whatever it was, back when they didn't have any money, it was a Glenn Larson type thing and whatever. Like, how can we make this look like not in the same universe, sort of,
like still human,
like sci-fi, and they just like, let me just cut the corners off these, and it works, man, because it's like, what?
There were other details that I noticed as well, because like, if it was a certain type of civilization that rose up that was still kind of human, small details, especially with women's clothing, I was like, oh, so they wear their sports bras the other way, that type, really just small stuff that as a woman I noticed.
Okay, because I don't know what that means.
So
yeah, kind of weird. Well, they're supposed to be a tribesman, so
yeah, but it was
allegedly
cool. It was those small details that made that show.
Yes,
yeah,
very nice. So anyway, what's the difference between crypto and cryptid? I don't know. Right? Because they don't know. I don't know either. They both exist or don't exist. Right? One's a form of currency and the other one's a form of what? I don't know.
A form of animal that not a lot of people know about?
Maybe. But either way, I don't care. So crypto guys, it's cryptid, not crypto. So stop. I'm not going to sell your stuff, and I don't care. I don't need to worry about making $17 whole or whatever it is you promise in your schema.
Oh, there is a cryptid crypto.
Of course there is, and it's probably not even real.
Oh, I'm looking at it now.
I mean, think about it. We have organizers and stuff that do events that basically want you to send them a check. You know what I mean? To me, that's just as shady as You know what I'm saying? It's like just as shady as a crypto guy. Send
Yeah.
us a check. What? First off, it's 2022. I got to find a check, which means I'm probably going to have to go to the post office or somewhere like 7-Eleven or some other fast food or sort of like quick stop type place to buy gas and get a stamped envelope and all that junk to send you a check. Venmo, bro. Cash App. It is 2022. If you can't do Square or something like that to take care of the monies, you want me to send you a check?
Yeah.
Come on, man. That's a red flag. You want me to fax it to you? Let me send you a fax copy of the front and back of the check so that you can give me credit for being in line to buy a vendor space somewhere.
Oh, I was looking.
This is a little rant. So if you're listening and you do vending events, dude, get a Square or something. Sign up for the free program or whatever. Pay the fees it takes to make life a lot easier, or use Venmo or Cash App or whatever one your bank offers, man. And, do it like that instead of a check.
In fact, like,
What are you, the DMV? I'm serious, man. It's like, you want a check? And I've told organizations that put on cryptid events, I'm not sending you a check. There's got to be another way.
yeah.
And you know what I heard? Just give it to me when you get here, man. Or I'll come by and get it. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But like send you a check. It's like, man, only 2 people got checks from me. One of them's my ex-wife. I'm just saying, that's just kind of how it was, man. It's like, and I get it. So, a lot of people, come on, when's the last time you actually wrote a check? Like trying to buy something, not just like paying a bill or whatever that needs it. Like go to Walmart and hand them a check and they can use the cash, the printer thing, but.
And it's funny because, like,
receipt printer.
you say that, but, like, the only time I can really think of a check being needed is, for some reason, some of the jobs I've worked in the past couple years, they still need a copy of a canceled check to set up your direct deposit.
No, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why they do that, because it has the routing number and the account number, and they can verify it through the ACH system as being a real account.
But then your mobile banking app will show you both of those. So there's no need for the canceled check anymore.
Yeah, but you have to trust the technology. That's why people still or companies still use fax machines, because it's supposed to be an unalterable way to prove something. It's like, really? Have you not played with a fax machine? So it's a thing. And so it is what it is. So anyway, cryptid, who cares? Stop sending me the wrong thing. I don't care. But also, astronomers have discovered 2 large domed objects on Earth's satellite.
Ah.
You know what the Earth satellite is?
The moon.
That's right.
Yes.
So this came from Anama Alien. I still don't know how to say this website's name.
I don't know.
Anama. We need to reach out to these people and say, how do you say your name, man?
I'm hitting contact right now.
Yeah. So anyway, they discovered 2 large domed objects on the Earth's surface, according to this article, and it basically says there are several theories about the population of the moon by intelligent beings. Yes, we've heard that, right? And some researchers believe that people already live and work on Earth's satellite. Now, the reason why I put this in here is because, yes, there's been these theories for a long time, and there's like little movies you can watch about it. I've been watching that show about the astronauts, and wow, what went out of my head? For All Mankind.
Yeah.
And it's a spoiler if I say what it is, but it does space stuff, and the idea of space happening and the space race being handled a little bit differently, and building moon bases and things like that. So I was kind of interested in it. And now it's been reported, allegedly, that there's a discovered abandoned settlement between 2 craters, Paracelsus and Aitken, right? And there's a picture of what looks like a dome in a crater. And so this dome structure reflects light, and that's why it's hard to see in the photographs. They're saying that since it reflects light, depending on how the picture is actually taken, it's hard to see. But for the first time, NASA learned about this mysterious object was in 1972. I was born in 1970, so that's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Since then, they've made attempts to scrutinize it, and several lunar vehicles were sent to the specified area. According to this article, it says the results of the mission were classified. As often the case, former employees of the agency are prone to information leaks so that the public learn about the details of those studies. And the source for the following images is from the United States Geological Survey, which was joint with NASA. the website, providing raw images for scientific studies. And there's a link that you can actually click on and go to the original photos. And as we talk about things on our podcast, we also have links in our show notes that if you want to go back and take a look, you can click away.
Yeah.
So, but inside this crater, it looks like a dome.
Looks like an igloo. Like if
I think that's just the reflection.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks kind of like there's a dome in there, right?
Yeah.
And they allegedly, academic science has confirmed the presence of these, two, possibly three mysterious domed objects on the moon, and their structures can be natural of origin. They're saying nature is amazing. Who knows what it is, right? Could be a more mundane explanation. It's just a visual deception.
So are they?
Which is what they say about the face on Mars and all that.
Are they counting both the bumps in that one image as two different domes?
Well, if you click on it, it looks like a dome, and then there's a reflection off to the edge of it.
Okay.
Which almost makes it look like a
igloo-y.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought there was more instances, so I don't know.
Well, it's not really a whole lot, but because these are allegedly leaked photos.
Ah, okay.
Right? At least the way I read it. So the structures which were spotted on Mars on NASA's maps were supposedly made by a species of what they are calling the Greys, like as an alien Greys, which are supposedly a race of super intelligent extraterrestrials that like the dark.
Okay.
So I always thought Greys were supposed to be drones and not that smart, but carried out little tasks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't really know. And this is the reason why they built the dome-like structure, so they can live underground in the dark.
Okay.
All right, well, sounds plausible.
And not because of I don't know.
There is an alien species who like the darkness so much they genetically changed themselves to have sunglasses, second eyelids, right, to cover their eyes. And the Greys are what they are. And that comes from prominent alien hunter Scott C. Waring. I don't know, but you know what? It does show a picture, and the picture looks kind of legit. It looks like the moon to me. And, it's kind of one of those things where it's all about the scale, right?
Yeah.
This could be huge, like as in physically a very large dome. And there is a bunch of theories about the moon. If you've never really thought about the moon, if you're listening to the podcast and you've never really thought about the moon, it's just up there kind of a thing. I mean, if you start doing some research on the moon, it's pretty remarkable, this thing.
Yeah.
And I like the way the article titled it Earth Satellite, because there was allegedly a period of time where the moon was never even here. And then magically it sort of showed up. Because there's tribes of people, ancient people, and I don't know their names because I can't pronounce the basics of things. I definitely can't. Yeah. They basically said the moon didn't exist.
And then the moon
And these
came.
brothers fought, and then the moon showed up.
Yeah.
And it is an unusual thing. It's placed itself, in an orbit around the Earth in a way that it blocks the sun. That's where you get your eclipses from and things like that. And the theory is that, hey, this thing was put in place to protect the Earth against all sorts of gamma burst and X-ray burst and all this crazy energy that comes off the sun, which could have possibly just been what destroyed Mars. Mm-hmm. To protect the planet, because it's of the correct scale that all this stuff coming from the sun could be blocked by the moon, because you don't have to have something larger than what you're trying to protect. It's all about scale, right? Yeah. It's a problem of scale. I mean, it goes on. Like when one of the booster rockets was jettisoned as the lunar vehicle lifted up to, sort of sync up with the other doodad to fly back to Earth on one of the, I think it was Apollo missions.
Okay.
I don't know which one because there's a bunch of them. And when that booster, that thruster hit the moon, it's allegedly resonated like a bell for hours. 2.5 to 3 hours. And I realize that I've said allegedly 8 times, but I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff, about what the moon is, what it's made out of, what the sand is, and how dangerous the sand can be, and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, I like some of the
like weird lights that are in the craters and what looks to be sometimes venting of material that occurs. So
yeah. I just like some of the old folklore about it and origin stories, like you're saying, it wasn't here and then it appeared.
Yeah.
And that appearance coincides with some sort of great fable or great story from ancient cultures. So whether it's brother, sister, or like you were saying, the 3 brothers fighting. So it was
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what culture. One of them was 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Another one's this race basically brought the moon with them, and that's where they are, and it was supposed to be overseeing some kind of, it's crazy, man. The moon's nutty. Yeah. And it's not necessarily made out of cheese. So I thought that was kind of crazy about these domed things on the moon. And anytime I see something on the moon, I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
You know, like, because it doesn't act like a satellite should act. You know, when we talk about like celestial objects of a natural type origin, it doesn't act like we would think it was supposed to act. Much like the umamau thing that came into our, you know, they're like, is this alive? Is it not alive? You know, what is it? Where did it come from?
Yeah.
You know, when that came in our solar system or wherever, I don't remember exactly how it came in to be, but I don't know whether it's the solar system or the galaxy or whatever we're calling it. It came in, whizzed around and left. And they're like, that's not normal. So,
yeah.
It was named after the astronomers in, I think, Hawaii that found it. We've talked about that thing like 5 or 6 times, but kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. Speaking of crazy, okay, so with this disclosure and UFOs and UAPs and all this stuff that's been going down for the past couple of years now, and the fact that it really hasn't been too much disclosure as we were thinking. And the idea that, you know, we actually talked about this amongst ourselves, and we came up with the idea that, hey, all of this stuff that's coming out, and you see it on TV all the time now, and it's in the news, is there in a way that sort of makes people think to themselves, I don't care at all about this anymore.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks because, you know, the whole idea is something that's been pretty researched throughout. Everybody has an interest to one degree or another about it, and now I don't think as many people care about it anymore, especially with the idea that, you know, hey, most of what you're seeing is really not alien stuff. It's probably more like advanced technology that we have or someone else has.
Yeah, but then, you know, like I was saying this earlier, it's yes, we're hearing, you know, our technology or some military technology. But I feel like within the past year, actually less than, especially the past few months, it keeps being flip-flop. And it's turned the whole ufology thing into like clickbait. It's just ultimate clickbait right now. Like one moment we're hearing, they're releasing records. It might be military technology. Now we're hearing official reports say we're not really sure what it is. And it keeps going back and forth.
Yeah, it's being convoluted and diluted to the point where you really don't know what it is.
What happens when it turns into clickbait, whether it's ufology or, you know, celebrity stuff, it doesn't matter. Whatever it is in culture, the moment it starts becoming clickbaity, you lose your audience.
Yeah. And there really hasn't been any real proof of what this stuff is. Now, I've been leaning towards this is what we're seeing and it's being reported, aside from the stuff that's completely unexplainable, is advanced military technology.
Yeah.
I mean, just recently in the news, you know, in one of these internet articles I've read from a military sort of place, I don't remember what it's called, and if I did, I wouldn't say what it is anyway. So they're now considering, you know, using sort of the able wingman or loyal wingman or whatever wingman technology, where you have like a fighter jet that's acting as a mothership to drones flying around, right? So it actually, in other words, these drones are acting as the wingman.
Yeah.
Now, and they're like, oh, we talked about other countries already sort of picking up the bat and running with it when it comes to this sort of thing. They're looking into buying the technology. So the technology is already there. It already exists. It's been tested. And now all of a sudden we're considering it. Really? Is the U.S. one of the strongest military superpowers in the world just now considering using drones and swarm technology as an able wingman type thing for our jets?
And you already talked about this like at the beginning of this year. You said the same thing.
There's alleged video over Roswell, not Roswell, Area 51, S2, S4 area, right? Yeah. Flying around, where they have a jet and it looks like it's just pumping little baby drones out the back.
Yeah.
And then the jet lands underground, kind of, and then here come all these little drones that make their way back into the hangar. So, and that was in 2005 or something like that.
And then like that whole, like I was like the Colorado thing that was happening in late 2019 or
yeah, and everybody's like,
2020.
what is it? What is it? And all they got was, we don't know what it
Yeah.
is, don't mess with it. That came from all the important people in these little civil. And so here's what I'm looking at. And not all drones are the quadcopters that you could buy at like Walmart, where you've got 4 little propellers that whiz around. And you've got other drones that are, have the same sort of shape as the Predator-style drones, where it's got the bulbous front and wings and little propeller on the back. Drones don't have to look like what you think drones look like.
No.
I mean, recently at a technology conference, there's a drone flying around. It looked like 2 pizza boxes, 2 medium-sized pizza boxes, separated, having a payload, flying around for 15 minutes, not making any sound at all, and using ion technology to fly.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that in my life fly. And to me, it would be witchcraft. I'm like, what is that? Why? How do you have 2 pizza boxes?
Yeah.
Because that's what they look like. A square pizza box. Now, who's to say that maybe DARPA and somebody else hasn't got it all figured out? And maybe, here recently, some of these very, very, very large triangle-shaped craft that appear to be flying are using twin ion or ion technology. I would say twin ion, like the TIE fighters for Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Because the larger surface area you have, the more this thing can allegedly carry. And what if they're using that as a means? And that thing would fly completely silent. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't make any noise at all, and could take off and do its thing, probably fly at like super fast speeds. And the one thing that makes me think that something like this, like a triangle-shaped craft or, something that's completely weird in that sort of thing, not necessarily the cigar shapes, but would be like military-based, be the fact that some of them do have lights on them. And they're like, you see them, like a triangle craft with 3 lights.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's a triangle. It's like, why would you, if you're an alien, again, why would you put freaking lights on your spaceship?
Which, now that you say that, so...
You know what I mean?
We have friends in the area who are always asking, or I'll see a random text message from them. Like, every couple of weeks or so, and they'll be like, hey, in 5 to 10 minutes, look over your skies. I keep seeing something over my way that's strange lights, blah, blah, blah. And then the next question they say is, see if Greg can look at it. Is it military technology? Or is
I used to be in the military. I mean, it doesn't mean I'm some kind of like super spook guy, but I mean, you kind of, and when you're in the military and you've been out there and you kind of doing your thing, whether you're in the Army, whatever, Navy, whatever, you see things that the military has that the average person doesn't necessarily or aren't necessarily familiar with.
Yeah.
So, where I get a little anxious, I shouldn't say anxious, where I get a little bit more interested is when you see maybe articles of things like that where military people are like, I didn't know what this was.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if you have been in the military for more than a minute,
Yeah.
you've seen some things. And you've got a lot of people deployed in conflicts all over the world and have been all over the world, seen a bunch of weird stuff just in general, but they've also are familiar with a lot of military technology. And when they get weirded out by it or have experiences where, people show up, cordon off an area, and say, you are not allowed to set foot in this area. Mm-hmm. You are not allowed to do, you need to stay away. Most military people are like, sounds fine to me. That's less I got to worry about. The possibility of me having to work or do more additional work because of this is gone now. I will absolutely stay away from it.
Yeah. Less paperwork, less paper trail.
No, never again volunteer yourself is one of the big
never.
Navy things, right? But yeah, because there's a high possibility that you may have to clean something if you know what I mean? So people stay away.
Yeah.
But yeah, why did these UFO alien style craft have lights on them? It doesn't make any sense to me. And people will say that so they can blend in. If you could just turn your lights off in the night sky and disappear, why would you want to blend in? You don't need to. You're just dark. And when you see some of these lights that are like green and red and yellow and white, and they're blinking around just like my freaking Phantom drone or our other drones, like, So anyway, there was a swarm of mysterious drones that basically swarmed around one of our most, according to this article, the war zone off the drive.com, our Navy's most advanced destroyer, Zumwalt class.
Trying to watch the clip now.
And this sounds, hey, kind of like what happened to the Omaha and some other other ships and stuff happened sort of kind of around, or at least I think a lot of what we've been seeing with a lot of these drones and drone technology and drone pictures and all of this stuff of unidentified aerial phenomenon and everything else is military technology, and it's probably drones. In the grand scheme of things, drones are relatively low cost.
Yeah.
So a country like China can have lots and lots and lots of drones. Heck, they make them. And they can be programmed to do different things. Like we've talked about in previous episodes of the podcast, you can go to somewhere like Taiwan and watch, 1,000 little drones fly in the air and create like Disney characters and stuff. Like they were doing it at Burning Man.
Yeah, and drones are now replacing fireworks celebrations.
Sure. Which to me is a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
Less loud noises,
less fingers being lost.
Less lost pets that freak out. That's a great idea.
Less PTSD experiences. So the idea that drones have to look a certain way and basically can't perform the aerial maneuvers and stuff that people say is just simply ridiculous.
Yeah.
At least I think so. And I think that all these little snippets that keep coming out talking about drone swarm, our most advanced whatever, it's like a modern version of Project Blue Book in a way that's like a diversionary tactic for the government, right? We're the government. We're going to look into this. We don't know what it is, guys. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We've had that technology for a long time. I mean, they have rocket drones that you basically fire and that ships target and test their weapons on. Been around since the 60s. And some of those rocket drone technologies and parts and pieces were made in the 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, we launched one off our ship so that another ship could target weapons and stuff like that before the ship became an actual, in the put in service type ship. It was doing some sea trials. And I'm looking at this thing, and it was made in the 40s. Like 1946. I'm like, wow, rocket drone made in 1946. That's crazy. And the other ship was, supposed to target, lock it, and shoot at it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what we see is military, man. I keep saying it, but I don't like the idea of drones swarming ships. Because any one of these drones can have small munitions and things like that. And plus, if it's swarming around reading your electronic signatures and countermeasure type things, it's not necessarily good. You always want to have the upper hand. And I'm sorry, I am a big fan of the U.S., and I think that we should have an advantage when it comes to this thing because we pour tons of money into it. Not just because we're the U.S., but we also kind of, help out other countries with this stuff too.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't think it's aliens. I want stuff to be aliens. I think some of the crazy, just completely unexplainable stuff is aliens.
But see, that right there goes to the point that I've been trying to make for a couple of months now. All of this flip-flop, all of this clickbait, it is deterring the growth of ufology in general. Ufology is almost becoming a joke.
Exactly what they wanted.
And while that's exactly what they want, I do not see the next generation of ufologists.
Well, I don't either.
That's horrible.
Well, here's the thing, too. One of the reasons against full disclosure or disclosure has always been we don't think the public can handle it. Or at least that's what people that want disclosure or for or against disclosure, in other words, non-military type people, because there have been scientists and stuff that basically say, So if everybody's sort of used to the idea, because it's been on TV forever, Bigfoot shows have been on TV forever. Everybody's been locked down for a couple of years, and all these ghost shows, alien shows, unexplained mystery shows, all this stuff has happened to the point where I think that just as a whole, people are just desensitized to the whole thing. Nothing's exciting.
I don't
It's like, I don't care.
think it's about like the desensitization. I think
I do.
Well, okay, so
I think that if you see something, right, if there's a drone swarm flying out in the daylight and everybody sees it, they're not going to be that freaked out about it.
Mm-hmm. I feel that with, like you were saying, with television, movies, sci-fi, which is, a whole book genre, because we've been reading about science fiction, we've been reading about UFOs, and we've been watching about UFOs for we've been reading science fiction since the 1800s, and we've been watching science fiction since the 1900s, which is horrifying to say. But we are desensitized, but that means we're more than ready if there's any truth to disclose.
I don't think we're ready. I just think it's not going to be as much of a shock because they're afraid of like this fear-induced panic type thing where the civilization will collapse because of the news, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Society and culture are so much different. And it's taken UFOs and conspiracies and paranormal to wear us down to being more being changed from the cover-ups and from the conspiracies.
Well, I think it depends how you look at it. If you look at this as being kind of an active attack, then yes, that makes sense. But if it's a passive thing, it's not. This is let's take the lobster, put it in the pot, and create a slow boil. Won't even know it's dying. Won't even know it's cooking. You throw him in the pot of boiling water, he's going to try to get out. He'll just sit there. When that water goes to a slow boil, he'll just sit there. He won't even know. He's like, he doesn't even know. And I think that's what's happening. Because that's the easiest way to defeat an enemy, right?
Slow integration.
Yeah. You just do it slow, they won't even know what's happening. I mean, look at some of the stuff that's just happening in the world today and us. I mean, like in the European Union out there, and basically I think it will, the EU and who's those guys that wear the blue helmets? NATO. Talking about how conspiracies should be against the law.
Okay.
It's like, really? Why is a conspiracy theory so bad that it needs to be against the law? Because
it incites fear and panic and can cause an issue with public safety.
That's what they say. But what if they're right? What if conspiracy is correct?
But then the conspiracy is no longer considered a conspiracy and blah, blah, blah.
But if it's against the law, chances are you'll never hear about it.
That's true.
If a conspiracy is they're coming to take all of our weapons away. Right? I mean, think about it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, well, and then you have the conspiracy on top of the conspiracy, right? They're making conspiracies illegal because they're hiding the truth that the Earth is hollow, it's flat Earth. We're surrounded by other continents. We have an Arctic ice wall, a mud flood, everything else, right?
Okay, that just goes back to the.
And then you get stuff that slips under the radar, like we found an ancient hominid skull. It's 1.5 million years old, which completely throws our existence out of whack.
But that just goes to the baseline mother conspiracy, which is the whole control of information thing.
That's how you win.
I know, but I don't know. I think we are different as a culture and society, and we are more apt to handle if aliens just drop out of space.
It's apathy. We just don't care.
That's true.
We can't handle anything. That's the entire point. We think we can. We can't handle nothing.
It's like those memes that happened 2 years ago, and the meme was like, hey, boss, I got this. And it's like, you're still coming in, right, though?
Yeah. I mean, what's happening now, yeah.
Aliens landed, but I still got to go to my call center job.
Yeah. It's kind of, yeah.
So sad.
Take somebody born in the freaking, I don't know, 1800s and drop them in the woods.
Yeah.
They're fine.
Yeah.
Take anybody now, drop them in the woods. Just random dude off the street, chances are they're not fine.
Yeah, you got a 30-70 maybe. So,
I mean, yeah. I don't think we're equipped to handle anything.
Depending on the amount of TV they watch, not even, upbringing. It's probably dependent on how much TV they watch.
No, it's like that little dog with the hat and he's like burning in hell or something sitting at the bar. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's all fine. Yeah. It's okay. Anyway, moving on to the podcast.
That took a dark, sad turn.
Well, it's kind of true, though. I mean, and you have people right now that are like trying to plan for stuff. If things just go bad, what can we do to prolong our existence? Mm-hmm. Right? And some of the stuff, if you're just one of these people that sit content and you're not worried about that kind of thing, like this person's a complete wacko. And that was, remember that for a while they had like the people that were the preppers and all those shows and stuff like that. And people are like, these guys are wackos. And I'm thinking to myself, I would like to be prepared as that person just in case of an emergency and things like that. Right?
True.
But it's gotten to the point where now a lot of those people that are considered to be preppers or preparing whatever, that it's just looked upon in a way that's like bad. I hope I live next to somebody like that. So if something bad happened, comet flies by, whatever, wipes out infrastructure, and there's nothing, I'd want a neighbor to go, hey man, you guys want some canned peaches? Like, yes.
The prepper industry, basically, incident and emergency response management, is upwards of a $70 billion industry.
Of course.
But that also covers all end-time situational awareness. So that also includes like software management. So right from
which, if you think about it, $70 billion is nothing.
Yeah.
Compared to like the entertainment industry.
They are expecting by 2025 to shoot all the way up to $423 billion industry.
They're just predicting that shit's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah. So, yeah. The $10.5 billion emergency preparation market.
Yep. It's time to get that Bear Grylls knife out of your pocket or, out of the cabinet. Everybody hates Bear Grylls, right? It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's a thing. So the mysterious drone footage kind of turned into, I don't deny it happened. I could see the video, but it's like, yes, duh.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while. To me, this is old news, and I think that's part of it, too. Now, everybody's, like I said, I think a lot of people that were into it are now sort of desensitized to it. But then every once in a while, you still have some stuff that shows up, because I think that the cryptid side of things is still just as crazy as they were. Right? You got the UFO peeps are kind of leveling out and they're doing their own thing and they're kind of spiraling a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But then you got the cryptid people that are still just as nuts as they were before, like finally indisputable proof of Bigfoot spotted in Northern California.
Finally.
And I'm like, I am clicking. You got me, right? So I click. Right?
Yeah.
There's a picture. And what it says is that there's a new indisputable proof that Bigfoot exists and has been spending most of its time in Northern California. And this footage, and we have a link to it, of course, was sent to a paranormal group by a photographer/videographer, which is everybody these days, who specializes in aerial photography or videography using a quadcopter. In other words, using a regular old drone. Maybe. A quadcopter is a drone that's lifted and propelled by 4 rotors. Thanks for describing that and putting it out there just in case you didn't know. The photographer says he was doing a pre-shoot to get some ideas of what they would be shooting when they actually got there. In other words, scouting out the area, right? Let me go ahead and do a quick fly around and film so that I know what to expect, which is good. Kudos to that person.
This footage, right? Yeah.
The photographer says he was doing a pre-shoot to get some ideas about what they were going to shoot at the time. When he returned home and reviewed the footage, he noticed what appears to be a large man-like figure in one of the shots. He says he doesn't know if it's a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, but he was confused and he sent it to the paranormal group for further analysis. The footage was taken near Roseville, California. At the end of the video, the expert says he believes this could be Bigfoot or a man wearing black pants and a black hoodie.
This footage is from 2015.
Doesn't matter. It's irrefutable evidence. And it could be a Bigfoot or a man wearing black pants and a black hoodie.
Okay.
Indisputable, Omi.
Indisputable.
Indisputable evidence.
Okay.
And so I look at the frame that they're using, and it could be a Sasquatch or a man wearing black pants and a black hoodie.
Of course.
What are we doing?
What are we doing? What are we doing here?
So I'm waiting to see this, undisputable evidence show up to see people look at it and tear it apart. But I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. And this is part of the problem that we have. How are we ever going to have any kind of real serious research when this makes the news and then everybody will get together that watches this and wants to comment on it, whether it's on Reddit or somewhere else, going to tear each other apart about what could be, indisputable evidence of Bigfoot or a big guy wearing black pants and a black hoodie. I'm like, what the hell, man?
Okay.
I'm like, all right. Could be UFOs.
Yeah.
Could be drones. Could be Bigfoot. Could be a big fat guy wearing black pants and a black shirt.
Okay.
Or a hoodie. Indisputable.
Indisputable.
Yep.
Whatever.
Basically. And we do have a link to it if you want to check it out for yourself. If you, want to. It's fine. It's all fine. So, yeah. Now, here's something that can be very helpful, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so we sat down at one time, and we were going to write out kind of a ghost hunting 101. All right, and we've kind of talked about this with people we know in the past, come up with a 101 type thing, for doing investigations and stuff. So, Daniel, if you're listening, you know what we're talking about. We even talked about it with Dave
Yeah.
So we're going to do a baseline sort of, ghost hunting 101. So I started to kind of look at some of this stuff, and this is more gear related, and kind of put together a list. And then I realized, why do that when I can use this article right here, which is written way better.
Yeah.
And does a pretty good job of describing how to take baseline readings ahead of a paranormal investigation. And this is from higgypop.com. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, baseline readings are going into an area, doing your research ahead of time, getting an idea of how things are normally, so that way, should something crazy happen during your investigation, you have a baseline.
Yes.
To know, wow, this is different than what we've experienced earlier.
And I think it's not that a lot of paranormal shows or things you see on TV or YouTube or, even TikTok, I kind of think they not only just gloss over this, but they also misrepresent it. Because when you watch these ghost hunting shows, they always do a initial walkthrough. And that's what a lot of people think a baseline reading is. And that's not the case.
Right.
Because oftentimes, if you want a baseline reading of a situation, you usually don't have variables involved, like the owner of the property or things like that. You're just trying to get the environmental readings. And the argument would be made that, the owner of the property or the person experiencing should be there. No. Let's find out what the property or building or wherever it is, what it's like with no other influences besides you and your equipment. So, yeah.
And, that makes sense. And I understand that, but at the same time, you probably, when you're a paranormal show, you're on a time budget.
Yeah.
And it's got to be interesting.
True.
Because nobody's going to film you just walking around, with your EMF detector, sticking it up to a junction box and all this other crazy stuff. And I think they only ever make mention of it is if they do come across something like crazy in a walkthrough. And with some of these shows, who even does the walkthrough? Does the crew do the walkthrough? Does the investigators do the walkthrough?
I think a good example, though, would be of like the walkthrough was some of the stuff Jack Osborne did with his sister, because they were doing a walkthrough. And there's at least two episodes of something they did.
Yeah, but did they include the walkthrough just because they actually got something? That's the entire
that was the thing. They got something while they were trying to do.
Because you rarely hear them say, when we walked through earlier, we didn't get these readings.
Yeah. So
it's kind of hard to look at it that way. We don't know if they're actually doing it or not, or if it's the way it's being edited presents it in a way that, I don't know if it's, you know what I mean? So it's like, how much of this is really edited out? How much of this is fake or whatever? Because people and not to go off on a rant, but there's a large group of people that will say that show is fake. And you're like, okay, and why do you think it's fake? Well, I mean, and then it goes through the explanation. It's like, dude, do you not understand it's a television show and it has to be edited for time, has to be edited for content, has to be edited for interest. Because if it's boring or if it's completely scientifical, you're going to say it sucks. You're not going to watch it.
Yeah, like one of my favorite shows that people thought was boring was Ghost Lab, where it was those two brothers like in Texas or something.
Yeah, but that was boring.
I was highly interested in that
Well, the
show.
original Ghost Hunters. Was it Ghost Hunters?
Yeah. Originally it was Ghost Hunters. Yeah.
That was boring. They never found nothing.
They found some.
They didn't use a whole lot of equipment. About as most exciting as they got was when they started like having girls. You know what I mean? Well, no, because there's people that will tell you straight up, if you bring a lady to an investigation, you'll get something. Okay. So it means there's always some wacko ghost who's likes the ladies, who's basically going to want to interact more.
Or doesn't like them.
Either way.
So.
You become a trigger object.
Objectifying women, even in the paranormal community.
There you go. Well, I mean, there's there's a lot of trigger objects you can use, but, ain't nothing more sassy.
That should be a whole
Well,
show.
it's funny you bring it up because Katrina, what's her face? I can't pronounce her last name.
Weintraub.
Yeah. She actually has brought up and made comment recently that women are basically sort of objectified and not considered equal in the paranormal community. It's a boys' world.
Yeah.
And I get that. I totally understand that because you see it. At the same time, I would rather watch a show like a paranormal, like ghost hunting show that actually does have women on there. Because for two things. Number one, you don't have to listen to the same stupid dudes talk. And number two, stuff usually happens when chicks are there.
She was, and see, that was the thing, like going way back to.
Oh, and she's doing a web series with her and Heather Taddy, who is very nice. Very, very nice.
Well, both of them. Like, we're talking going way back to Paranormal State when Katrina was on that. I was like, okay, let's sit down. I got to pay attention to every bit of this episode, you know? But I completely agree. If it's not, you know, being objectified in the paranormal community, there's a bit of tokenship.
Absolutely.
There's a bit of stereotype.
Yes.
I mean, and some of it we meme about, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, we said Heather's very nice because we've met her, talked to her, and a couple times, right? But I've never met Katrina.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway. But on the other side of that, you do have the other side where, you know, the cliche of the paranormal investigator is pretty hardcore. It's basically slamming the dudes, you know, with the weird hair and the extreme T-shirts and all this, you know what I'm saying?
Where you don't know if it's Chris Angel or Billy the Exterminator.
Or it's both. Yeah. Like, you know, and I'm tired of extreme paranormal groups. It's like, okay, you're not in a rock band. Mm-hmm. You're not Slipknot or another Mudroot or some other band I didn't care about, but you know what I'm saying?
However, I would watch if they go the other way, like completely like steampunk or almost Ren Fair, because that would be ridiculous.
That would last about 3 minutes.
I would watch all 3 minutes.
Let me put my welding goggles down. Can't see anything.
I would watch it.
But I mean, at the same time, because in real life, there are people that, you know, they want to do the extreme, you know, world wrestling paranormal group investigations because that's what they look like, right? And then you have the other side of that. It's a bunch of old people cruising around.
You mean like us?
Yeah, like us. It's just, you know, bought some stuff off Amazon because that's all you can really get because you're like, So there's really no winning.
Well,
there's no uniform you can buy to give yourself credibility, right?
Because you actually bought a warm pair of gloves and a decent waterproof jacket to be out there in the cold, dark, scary place.
Like, oh, hey, you know, let's go. Well, I mean, here's the thing: most of the youngsters, they don't worry about insurance premiums.
Yes, that's true.
You know, old people do. It's like, whoa, you better put on those steel-toe shoes, man. We're going to go out there. Whoa, that's a $500. Have you paid your deductible yet, man? Your co-payment's going to be enormous if you fall down the steps.
I was going to say, I was like, like steel-toe boots or a tetanus shot copay, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing, too. You can look at some of these shows and see who's more serious by their footwear.
Okay.
When they're wearing boots and stuff, I'm all about that.
That's like...
Because, like, have you ever jammed your foot on a piece of rebar or something, split your toes? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Or, one of my friends sent it to me, and it was like this person talking about her Bigfoot encounter and then trying to walk you through the woods near where it happened, and she's just in sandals. And not even summery by the lake sandals. She is in date sandals. And I'm just like...
I'd rather her be barefoot.
Honestly. And I'm saying the rest of the outfit complemented the sandals.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how? So I'm surprised Bigfoot didn't chat you up in that outfit. No offense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't take it seriously. So.
I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Anyways, we should really get back to a baseline.
Well, we joke around with that kind of stuff, but it's like, how do you know? But see, I think a lot of this is television's fault.
Yeah.
Television wants to make it like some sort of extreme thing, and you got to be extreme with black T-shirts and everything else, and the hats and all that stuff. And you know, and if you're listening and you're thinking we're picking on you, we probably are, but we're really not. I mean, It's the same thing. You know, and I get it. I'd rather see people be safe, you know, and be. You know what I mean? Just to kind of be safe about it, because you never see on TV where somebody's like just basically taking a header down the stairs. And people have died doing paranormal investigations in places that have been abandoned. Or not in use anymore. Like the kid fell down the elevator shaft. I mean, come on, man. And it's dark and all that stuff.
And
you
some of
got
these
to be
paranormal
careful.
Walkthroughs, you have to sign a statement saying...
I mean, we knew somebody that fell off the steps and hurt themselves, and they were doing just a walk around town kind of thing.
Yeah, like a paranormal haunted tour.
Yeah,
you know?
So I mean, you got to be... And, you know, when you're young, you don't care, but when you're older and you break your neck, everything can break your neck after that, and you get a little leery of it. At least I do. I watch these, like, funny videos and stuff where it's like old America's, you know, funny videos.
Yeah.
And you see somebody, like, doing a scorpion, like where they fall or whatever, and they face first, and their legs come over their shoulders, you know what I mean, like a scorpion.
Yeah.
That scares me every time. Like, you just broke your neck.
Oh, God.
Well, your copay is going to be tremendous.
Or like me right now, this time of year, everything's a snake.
Yep.
So my
everything is a snake. We almost ran one over just going across the road.
So my Instagram videos, what you don't see, is like me throwing a rock at a stick because I thought it was a snake.
Nothing wrong with that. It's probably a good idea to toss a rock when you think you see something weird, because it might be a nest of snakes.
I threw another rock at another stick. So that whole afternoon, I threw like 5 or 10 rocks.
Well, what works pretty good is gravel, because you can do like a scatter effect and get a whole bunch of area.
But yeah, we should get back to the baseline thing.
So we are at the baseline. So when it comes to the baseline, we're talking about temperature and humidity, and of course electrical magnetic interference and things like that. So with the temperature and humidity, you're getting a baseline to know in areas where you're probably going to be investigating, what's the average temperature, or what's the temperature that you experienced while you were doing it. Mm-hmm. So that if you go into a room and you're like, man, this room is 87 degrees, but you go over to a cold spot, ooh, it's 76 degrees or something cold here. Yeah. Is it actually the case? You don't know, because you didn't do it beforehand, so you can't really rule out if that's just the way it is in that one spot.
Is this particular room drafty?
Right. So you want to kind of, and if you really have the time to do the investigation, you kind of want to do it, multiple times to get a real accurate sort of meaning. So if you're trying to be scientific about it, then you have to be scientifically. You can't just do it at one time and say this is what it is. You want to do it in the morning, the evening, the night, that kind of thing, to get a real sort of idea of what you're dealing with.
Or we noticed that one place that we investigated, and they basically, everything they described to us said that the hauntings were seasonal. So stuff was happening in the spring.
Yeah, which is weird, but so does temperature change, so does humidity levels and stuff like that. So taking these baseline measurements doesn't mean merely doing a complete walk through the property 20 minutes before it's a ghost hunt with an EF meter.
Yeah,
to really determine or understand your environment, your base environment conditions, then you kind of need to see what those naturally occurring fluctuations may be.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do it multiple times. But reading temperature and humidity makes sense, because then you're getting an idea of the environmental conditions that you're in, right?
Yep.
There's different ways you can do it. There's data loggers, like hunting data loggers and stuff like that. I mean, you can really spend a ton of money, right? Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times you kind of got to do what you got to do. You can get like a digital hygrometer, thermometer combination. You can set it up in different places and have it remote or Bluetooth. If you're trying to measure that and you can't be there all throughout the day or whatever, and it'll record the data. We actually have one that we put in our van refrigerator that basically sends it to my phone. It stores the information over the past 24 hours, right? And it'll send it to my phone, and I can tell you what the temperature was and the humidity level was at different times during the day, because it stores the information.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend $1,000. You get this for pretty inexpensive, but an infrared temperature gun or a non-contact laser thermometer, so you can actually read the temperature in different areas. Those are pretty inexpensive too, and it's probably a good idea to carry one, because then you can really see a hot spot versus a cold spot.
And most of those a lot of us already have, due to the past couple of years,
Well, I don't know about most of us, but if you're a handy person or whatever, you probably do have one. We've had ours. I bought mine from a thrift shop in 2006. Because it was a non-contact laser thermometer, set it right on there, and we were reading measurements, because hey, if you do HV, AC, ductwork, whatever, I mean, they're pretty inexpensive to get, right? EF meters or EMF readers are a dime a dozen. You can buy them off the internet, and get them for a pretty inexpensive price. Now, when determining like wind and drafts and things like that, you're going to need some other equipment, and I can see where that would be useful too, because what can wind and draft do in your investigation? Blow the door shut, scare the crap out of you, right?
Blow the door shut, cause sound anomalies.
Make stuff move.
So
it's a good idea to get an idea of what's going on, by the doorways, by the windows. If you're looking for things that move, or it's been reported, oh, hey, this move, sometimes you can see how secure is this building as far as being secured against the elements. A lot of times it's not. We were in that old church where we did the Chapel of Hope. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Chapel of Rest.
Chapel of Rest.
And it went from being a very hot day to kind of cooled off because of a rainstorm that was coming. And that whole entire place was popping and creaking like crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was all wood. So being able to get an idea of your environmental conditions really sort of sets the scene for what you may have as far as investigation. To be able to rule out, it always makes that noise.
Yeah.
Why are you scared, right? Things like electromagnetism and being able to look up electromagnetic field is pretty helpful, especially when it comes to like electric boxes, wall sockets, just the amount of energy coming out of that space because of maybe unshielded boxes, all that sort of thing needs to be measured.
Yeah. If you have somebody who swears that a certain part of the house always makes them feel creeped out, well, don't have them in, if you can, don't have them with you, but go take an EMF reader.
Yeah, they've been there.
Spot.
They live there.
Yeah.
They've been exposed to it. It's always the dose that makes the poison. So if you think about living in a spot where you may be sleeping in an older building with an ungrounded or basically an electrical junction panel or box that's putting off crazy amounts of electromagnetic energy, and you're there all the time, of course you're going to feel more strange than if I just walked in and said, I don't feel anything in here. And that happened to us at the train depot. One of those boxes pumps out some juice.
Or I read about one recently, and it was like this woman who always knit in her sunroom underneath her sunroom fan.
Yeah.
And basically it was bad wiring in the ceiling fan because she started after a while, since she was always knitting like every afternoon below that.
Getting a little crazy.
Yeah. So a couple of months away from that and get the wiring redone, no more problem.
Yeah.
So
being able to use like an EMF meter, a tri-field meter, or multi-field meter is probably a good idea, to help establish a baseline, because you're going to walk around and you're going to be able to read stuff like read your wireless thermostat, check the router to see if it's being crazy and pumping out some juice, right? Look at the junction boxes, look at the air conditioning, the power panels, the distribution things, just to kind of see and get a baseline reading of what the EMF level is. Now, a lot of this kind of pertains to an environment where there's still power. If you're in like in a completely abandoned area that has no power, like you're in an old hospital, then you probably won't get any. So if you do get results, there might be something, because of the whole energy thing, right?
Oh,
when it comes to ghosty stuff, light levels.
Well, yeah, and then the light levels and then the background noise, for me, they kind of tie together, because going back to like what you were saying, visiting the place multiple times to establish a baseline, a very good example of that would be a historic town I'm kind of familiar with. And going and getting a baseline reading at a couple of buildings in this historic town, you noticed everything was really quiet until one day when you show up on a Friday and suddenly there's new background noise and suddenly there's new light sources coming in. And then you hear some of the ghost stories and they match along with that. Well, I was there on a Friday in the early evening. Well, it's a historic town with old city rules, like a historic district. Clubs were only open Friday through Sunday. So some of that background noise and some of that strange lights are the club at the end of the block.
Yep.
So that background noise isn't a ghost. It just happens to be the club that's only open Friday through Sunday.
Also, it's a good idea so you can see if you see strange light phenomena and things like that.
Yeah.
And, of course, background noise is important, because if you want to record that, so you get a baseline for that in general, so you know what's normal and expected versus this is the experience that other people have had and experience that you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Now, infrasound is one of those things that people talk about. We did a podcast for this for our patrons where we talked about infrasound in great and agonizing detail. Omi says we actually released it as a Patreon-only sort of sneak peek. Yeah. I don't remember it. But that doesn't mean that I didn't do it, because sometimes we do podcasts late at night. Anyway, it's a thing. Sometimes, the best laid titles and page information you put in place to be released with your podcast just doesn't happen. I'm looking at you, Libsyn. So anyway, infrasound is a very low frequency sound. It's below the range of human hearing, and it's said to cause people to basically have discomfort or possible discomfort, disorientation, sometimes feeling panicked, increased heart rate, blood pressure. In extreme cases, infrasound has been attributed to feelings of depression, general feeling of unease, as well as, vision-like apparitions, and all this, of course, can be assumed to be experiences from a haunting, right? Mm-hmm. Well, this one, it's hard to check for because it can be expensive to check for, but it totally makes sense because infrasound will have a physical and physiological effect on you.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about that in a little bit, but for the most part, since you can't hear it, you don't know if it exists or not. And that's kind of hard to rule out, but it would be good to be able to rule something like that out, especially if they're having a haunting. sort of experience. And what if they're catching these vibrations from, something that's produced them? Could be a generator, anything crazy like that. If it has that effect on you, I mean, that can be kind of scary if you're experiencing it. But at some point, if you're there and you're an investigation kind of person, right, and you're on the team, you're doing your job, what if it occurs when you're there? And what if the duration that the infrasound is occurring is enough to affect you? Then you're going to be affected by it. You're going to go, whoa.
Yeah.
I feel it too. I feel nauseous.
Yeah.
I got a headache. I'm dizzy. All those things can be caused by infrasound.
Yeah.
So it would be cool to be able to check that. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, we should be able to check that. Because I have some of those experiences when we go into places that are weird.
Okay.
So how do I distinguish between it's really weird and something's going on, or something's basically I'm getting blasted by infrasound from something?
But there's also some other things that correlate, because like everything you described, the first thing I thought of was like a restaurant a couple weeks ago that had to get shut down because of gas leak, Yeah.
Or
barometric pressure, because right now it's hurricane season on the East Coast.
Right.
Or it's starting to be. And every time there's a barometric pressure change, I get a horrible headache and I get a little dizzy.
Yeah.
Now, if a storm front rolls in on a spooky night, am I experiencing a paranormal phenomenon, or am I experiencing a barometric pressure headache? I don't know. So infrasound and even barometric pressures, things to consider when you're doing a baseline reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Low frequencies, man, can be caused by wind turbines, traffic noise. All depends on kind of the situation, the environmental situation you're in. Like we're kind of in a bowl.
Yeah.
So we can hear people talking, and you have no idea where it's coming from. But we're in a bowl. They could be talking from, anywhere. So who knows? But infrasound would probably be pretty good, too, to be able to sort of rule out some things. But you kind of got to have a little bit of a special audio equipment to be able to detect infrasound, because it's below the realm of human hearing. So if you record it, you're going to be able to hear it. Unless you make it to be heard, you're not going to hear it. So you need some kind of a measurement device, like a decibel meter or something like that, or a frequency meter, to be able to read the frequency. Mm-hmm. So even if you couldn't hear it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You'd have to be able to look at it, and that can be kind of pricey. So there are allegedly devices that you can buy from companies and ghost hunting companies and stuff like that to sort of help with that, to be able to read some of the information that you physically can't experience. And some of those are like seismic and vibration meters, geophones that record that sort of thing.
I just looked those up on Google, like Google Shopping.
Yeah, a lot of them are stupid expensive.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my goodness.
And by expensive, we mean like, if you're paying $300 or $400 for a piece of gear that's kind of homemade, that's probably about the extent of what we would pay. But some of them can get up there like, $500 or $600, where it's like, man, I can buy a geophone myself probably for less.
Here's an Endura geophone for $970.
Yeah.
And then, here's a case for one for $449.
Yeah, so, you kind of get into the realm of, is it really expensive? And of course, things that are expensive are subjective. But for most of us, that kind of stuff's kind of pricey. Or at least it is how I look at it.
But then, like our friend Dirk would tell you, half this, you could manipulate an iPhone to do it. So.
Well, it does, yeah, sure. It does have, but then at the same time, though, anything that your phone can record or do, you always have to look at it as being like, well, your phone also listens to you 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So is that a device that's, so can you really trust it? And to a certain degree, sure, it has onboard sensors and things like that, but I think a purpose-built device, or a device that's been made to purposely read certain things, is probably more accurate than your phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but in a pinch, it might work. But then at the same time, you'll never know for sure if it's just what you think it is or what the phone's showing you, and how accurate is that phone. So. Yeah. Now, they do say that geophones may be the best low-cost option, but they're really not ideal, because most of the devices just kind of let you know that you've got some vibration. Give you some kind of indicator light that might flash, but they don't really give you an idea of what, or to the extent, or the
some sort of
intensity of the vibration. Like when you see the movies where there's an earthquake and a little,
like a seismic
little thing scritching across the paper, a little
yeah,
kind of give you an idea to the extent.
Which is funny.
Now, you know what? That's funny, though, because those vibrations from earthquakes can cause infrasound.
Yeah. And then we had that whole stuff early last year or late last year where we had all those strange earthquakes past Asheville, North Carolina, and
still
going
happening.
into South Carolina.
Yep, and they're still happening.
There's been an increase in occurrences out there.
Yep. So. And they don't exactly know. Bless you. I forgot what I was going to say, but yeah, they've been happening, and they don't exactly know what's causing them per se. But tectonic plate movement and stuff like that it can cause all sorts of weird stuff when it comes to like vibrations and infrasound and things like that. So anyway, the entire part of the whole thing was the reason why you do a baseline is to establish the environmental conditions of the investigation that you're going to be doing, so that you know what's happening may be out of the realm of normal based off the information that you have. So if it's not normal, then you can start looking at it. Is this paranormal, or is this something else? Do I need to sort of debunk this and apply some skepticism to it? Or, wow, that's the craziest thing I've ever experienced and I can't explain it, and I have this information established beforehand, so it doesn't match any of the criteria. So, yes, it's haunted.
And the pros and cons of this are the fact that if you establish a normal, then it is easier to find legitimate evidence of something unusual.
Or something that actually gets into the realm of this is evidence.
But then the con is the whole experience isn't new and spooky. So are we feeding into finding paranormal evidence, or are we feeding into our nature of wanting to be spooked and frightened?
Of course, yes.
By the new experience.
All of it.
So there's a pro and a con there. Do you do a baseline? Well, if you're trying to collect legitimate evidence, yes. If you're just trying to experience something, maybe you don't need to do.
Yeah, and then you're going to get into the whole argument of, well, I'm not a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
I'm a paranormal researcher.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you bought your sticker from the same place I did. We both got the same crazy shirt. I mean, come on.
But then even still, a researcher. So because of where we live in North Carolina, we have people who reach out to us about a haunted bridge in the general area. I am automatically considered a paranormal researcher because of that bridge, because people reach out to us experiencing that bridge for the first time.
What about me?
Yeah, you.
You're like,
well, they sent me the Facebook messages,
That's because you're nicer.
Okay. Anyways. So multiple people reaching out over different periods of time with the same exact experience over that bridge, that automatically makes me a paranormal researcher because they're all giving me the same
according
experience,
to them. Hey, if you pull out your paranormal researcher certificate that you can get online,
or
does that make you more legit paranormal researcher?
Or you pull out your weatherproof, waterproof, UV-proof paranormal investigator sticker.
Yeah, there you go. And stick it on something. As long as you're YouTube certified.
Yes.
See, we kind of did we've made some stickers a while ago. I don't know if our patrons got them yet. Did you send?
Yep.
Yeah, because I can't remember when we got them. We've had them for a little bit. That say YouTube certified paranormal investigator. And it's a tongue-in-cheek thing, and people think it's legit, and I don't have a heart to tell them. That we kind of did that to be a little funny. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're like, heck yeah. And I'm like, all right, man. Yeah. Because there's a whole bunch of those. Because the whole YouTube certified was a joke. Mm-hmm. Because there's experts on YouTube, right? Just like anywhere else. I have them, I used to put that on my YouTube videos for doing van stuff and fixing things. Yeah. YouTube certified mechanic. You know what I mean? Because it's a tongue-in-cheek thing. Because there are experts. Anytime you watch it, you got to take anything that somebody says on the internet with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But, man, we've had people buy those stickers like, yep, that's legit. And I'm like, oh, man. So I'm just going to make a whole series of them. I might do it or not. I don't know. But it's kind of funny. But
so our Patreon patrons get that sticker. And if you didn't get your sticker, you should message me. But if you don't have that sticker, you can always get it from my Etsy shop. So
you got to tell them what it is.
You just go to Craft Intent on Etsy or type Paranormal Investigator sticker and find us. You'll find us. Yeah, I'm in there.
So we have a bunch of gear that we use to try to establish baselines and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, it can be hard to basically have the time to do a baseline. Sometimes you don't have the time. Sometimes it's not your deal, man.
Yeah.
It's not your investigation, so you got to do the best you can. But the big thing is to try to use the gear that you have to not necessarily debunk, but to get an idea of what you're walking into, what you're dealing with. We went and we've done some things where we didn't really have too much of a time, but from doing a little bit of a, quick investigation with some of the gear that we brought, and you can bring the simple stuff. It's like, okay, I know what that is, or I can establish that that's something that happens naturally. It's a normal thing, and then have weird stuff completely blow all of that out of the water and go, wow, was not expecting that. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Why is it seriously a 30 to 40 degree temperature shift difference in the middle of this place when just 2 seconds ago I was standing there sweating profusely like two pigs in a blanket? So it kind of is what it is. So try to do the right thing. Try to be more science minded to at least give you an idea if what you're experiencing is worth talking about, or not. Because we've seen people walk into a place, do one of these ticketed investigation things, like straight up as soon as they walk in the door, yep, haunted. And it's like, really, man, give it a second. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Kick the tires. Come on.
And that's something I've always wondered too. There's so many different variables that sort of make it hard to do any of this stuff with any real certainty.
Yeah.
Like you may walk into a place and we need to establish the baselining and do the 3-4 times and get an idea and then do the investigation. But some of that stuff can be thrown off when you walk in and there's a medium with you and they say, dude, and they start explaining stuff that the other people have been explaining.
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, so is any of this going to be relevant? But you still got to kind of do it. And then my favorite is that most people don't actually document anything. They're like, here we go. And it's like, okay. But I get it too, because hold on a second, guys, let me turn on a flashlight and scribble some stuff down on a piece of paper so I can look at this later, kind of a thing. Yeah. Can be sort of halting when it comes to doing the investigation, as far as like, wait a minute, let me do this. And so you got to have people that kind of do stuff like that. And we do have a patron that does ghost investigations and stuff too. Be curious as to see what he thinks.
Yeah.
Because we've done that. Let's bring the paperwork and check it out. And then you forget because you're like, whoa, stuff's happening. You didn't write anything down.
Yeah.
So there's always got to be one nerd that writes some stuff down.
Or even not even writing stuff down. I mean, most phones now, if you record video, you can hit info on the video and it pulls up almost like smartphone EXIF data. It'll tell
but if I'm trying to record like temperatures and EMF readings and things like that, you got to be real diligent, I mean, we have devices. Most of our devices actually save.
You say during the video, oh, wow, right now it's 37 degrees,
Yeah, sure.
So, yeah.
It's all a thing. Then later on you have to edit all that stuff out because your video is 75 minutes long and it's boring.
Well, that's what
just
YouTube's
nothing
for.
happens. So then you get people going, hey, oh, man, fake. It's all fake. So anyway, speaking of fake, we're done. I think we've been talking quite long enough. It's 1 hour and 18 minutes. That's a lot for a podcast, and for being free, that's a bargain.
Hey, well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you want to contact us, reach out on social media. You can find us easily on pretty much any platform by searching for CreepGeeks Podcast. Or email us, contact@creepgeeks.com. Check us out. We also have that stuff on our Etsy shop. Links to everything we talked about and the Etsy in the show notes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. We do a podcast all the time, at least once a week or so. Kind of depends. Sometimes holidays happen. We like to enjoy them, that kind of thing. But yeah, we look forward to hearing from you. So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Icicle.
Bye.
Jesus, come briefly, dismiss me or keep me, just let me go home. She'll be burning a candle under the mantle when the evenings get cold. She knows that I'll grow slowly as a raindrop down her window pane. She knows that I'll hold her locket on a chain to keep the evil things away. She knows that I'll hold slowly as a raindrop down her window pane. She knows that I'll hold to lock it on a chain to keep the evil things away.